Hey Tony, thanks for coming down today.
Thanks, Dave, for inviting me.
My pleasure. Just do us a little favor. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from? How do you got the military?
Yeah, so I'm a military brat, and it's important because that built my foundation.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the military. My dad was in the military. In fact, he was a drill sergeant.
Army.
And Army all the way, yes, sir,
Okay.
all the way. And so I grew up in the military, and that was important because when my dad decided he wanted to retire, he wanted to retire in a civilian setting, which I was not used to.
Mm-hmm.
So because I wasn't used to it, I actually dropped out of high school and joined the Army
Really?
because it was such a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me. So I spent my whole, I would say, I spent like 40 years, um, either in one state or the other, as a person, as a kid and as an adult. I joined the military again at 1979, high school dropout, and then I, uh, I got mad at somebody. I went to NBC school. I got mad at somebody, an officer, who kind of told me to shut up. And I'm like, what gives you the right? And I was an E5 at the time. What gives you the right to tell me to shut up? You're a second lieutenant. He said, because I got education. I said, what? And I sat down, kind of despondent, demoralized, and I looked at the paper, and it said 3-year ROTC scholarship. It was 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Had a whole bunch of 2 years and like 23-year-olds. I applied for that 3-year ROTC scholarship. I made E6 at the same time, and I was accepted.
Nice.
So I went from becoming an officer, and enlisted to be an officer, went to Temple University, got a bachelor's, came in as an officer after 8 years. So those are the things that I still had NCO for my dad and myself. So even when I was an officer, I was still like a warrant officer, but with commissioned bars.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always addressed stuff like that. And then I was in military intelligence for 16 years and retired in 2007 at 24 years.
Nice.
Met my wife, who was also an important part because my wife at the time was a law enforcement officer in New Jersey, Plainfield.
Is that where you're from?
No, I'm a military brat. So I was everywhere and nowhere at the same
Where were you
time.
born?
Fort Hood, which
Okay.
is now called Cavasso. So now I don't even know if it exists. When I tell people like, where is that? Where is Fort Hood?
Right.
Cavasso. But I only spent like most military brats. They only spend 2 or 3 years per place. So you really couldn't plug them. You couldn't say, yeah, where's your accent? Because I ain't lived alone. And I spent a lot of time in Germany, but I don't have a German accent. I spoke German a little bit. So again, that's kind of the makeup of the military brat is that they have all that experience, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you a different point of view when you look at things.
Truly.
My wife, again, she was on the domestic violence was her department, and that got me more into the softer side of the military, softer side. So I decided to get a master's out of counseling from that.
Nice.
So I got a master's in counseling. I actually interned at James A. Haley VA,
Okay.
and while I was there, I found out that 85% of the people who were counselors at the VA had no military experience. They know how to handle us. We call up there and sing, FR, and that was to them, that was offensive. Because a lot of those will have at least a bachelor's degree, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
So now they talk to some crusty old person, screech, screech, and they ain't like that. So I said, well, why can't veterans counsel veterans? A way of us still owning it, being part of it.
Right.
And that's where Veterans Council and Veterans, my nonprofit, that's really actually was birthed at me being an intern at James A. Haley VA. So that's kind of it. So now I've been the president CEO for Veterans Council and Veterans for over 10 years now.
Okay.
And my whole part was me being a servant,
Mm-hmm.
a public servant, but at the same time, the military. I'm very single focused, one trick pony, whatever the words are.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ain't talking veterans, you ain't got my attention. Talking veterans, you got my attention.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where Veterans Council and Veterans, we focus on the suicide being the connection piece, right? Because we got most of us got the automatic trust.
Mm-hmm.
When we come down, hey, I'm a veteran. Now we in.
Exactly.
And that's I think you need that when you start talking to us, when you start trying to get to the part that we keep hidden from everyone. So that's kind of been, and then I've done other things. I've been American Legion. I got somebody a couple years ago, well, about 6 years ago, before the pandemic, I was asked to be the Veteran Affairs Rehab Chair for the Central Area for the American Legion, and that's when you're the VA&R for 3 counties: Polk County, Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, and then that person died. Then the other person took his place. He asked me again, and then just recently they had a new election. The guy who was the Central Area Commander, Bob Matheson, he went over to be second vice, and a new guy called me, hey, Do you want to be the? So now I'm on my third tour of being a VA&R for 3 counties. And again, it's the same thing though, right? Taking care of veterans and families, with them to the benefits. But the VA&R is, one part is the benefits. We spend a lot of time on benefits, but very few moments we spend on the rehab side. Because of mental health, I'm allowed on the rehab side too. This is where the suicides and the PTSD and that kind of stuff. We don't talk about that, but that's part of the R. So that's what I bring to the table. That I balance it out. Say I'll talk about your rights and stuff, but I'm also concerned about how you're adjusting, how your family adjusting. So that's one of the things that's Tony. And like I said recently, as we talked earlier, I was inducted to the 2023 Florida Veterans Hall of Fame for that as well. So I look at that as, I always look at things through God, the burning bush, I call it. And so when I get these awards, it's not about me. It's about He's saying, I want you to do more. I don't want you to be a bodega, which I wanted to be. I want to be a bodega man, and I only got 3 chairs. I only got this much food. When it run out, you got to go. Go down the street. That was me, the selfish kind. But God said no. He says, I want you to be bigger, and that's what's happening now, begrudgingly, being obedient. So I'm getting bigger. I got a national footprint.
Nice.
And so that's Tony. My wife and I, another tidbit. My wife, when she retired from law enforcement, she bought an RV. And we are now we've been full-time RV.
Full-time RVing.
Since 2010.
That's pretty awesome. So I notice you're just always called to serve.
Yes,
you're
absolutely.
Always being called to serve. It's like
yes.
You actually started the VCB, right?
Yes, the founder.
And you sat there and you came up. Did you talk to your wife about starting that?
Yeah, I did. And one thing I do know is that even though people try to lump law enforcement, first responders to veterans, she's like, you're not us, okay? You're not us. I said, well, try to get on base about me.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so she said, she looked at it as a hobby. So it wasn't like she felt like it wasn't a serious commitment. But so yeah, she kind of like, let's see how long that lasts. So now we're here 10 years later, and I'm now getting bigger. So she's still part of that.
So it's fair to say you're, like we said, you have a true love for the military.
Yes, absolutely, and the families.
And the families. And
absolutely.
The colors run deep inside you.
Big time. I tell you, if you want to get my attention, don't say you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. Tell me you're a veteran, you got my attention. You know how people look on the battle line and look for RD, whatever. I look for veteran. If I can somehow see the V, that's how I normally go until he says something different. So yeah, strictly a veterans, and I grew up as a veteran, of course, families as well. So veterans and their families are very key to what I do.
And what do you think the military brought to you? Actually, did they instill this into you, or did they just uncover something else?
There are so many things that about the military. Generally speaking, it's not about the race. Generally speaking, it's more about the rank than anything else. We all have a common cause, so when we bring all our together, our job is to kill the enemy. I don't sit there and say, if you need help, I need help. I don't say, are you Republican, Democrat? Or are you black or white? No, I just see one of us, and that's when I go and do my thing.
That's right.
So it brings the collectiveness, accountability, standards, very important to me. That's one of the agreements. Accountability and standards, mentorship. You can't get too far without some form of mentorship along the way.
Truth.
So mentorship is very important to me as well. Integrity. I mean, again, it's the NCO creed, all that kind of stuff, but integrity, very important. So those are things that the military kind of reinforced as I did, the years that I bring to me as a person. I try to bring the same thing: the sincerity, the integrity, the commitment. Right? It's a commitment. So, like me, serving in the military 20-something years, that's a commitment. My wife served 25. Doing this, veteran for 10 years, commitment. Those are the things that they always impressed that I got from the military. And I got educated. I got a master's degree for free. I went from a high school dropout to the master's degree with no debt.
See that? No judgment.
Roger that.
That's awesome. Where do you see what's next for Tony in the VCP? What's next for you on this? Where do you see this going? What do you want to do the community?
So there's Tony who's selfish, and there's God who's being obedient. if I look at the tea leaves that are being put upon me, I think VCB will become a more of a national footprint. And I mean like chapters. I'm not sure it's going to be me, but I believe that because we're veterans everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that not only will I have a national like social presence, but I have a footprint. Mm-hmm. So I think that'd be one thing. And then the succession. We don't do that very well in this country, but having a succession plan for the person come behind me. Mm-hmm. So making sure that I get things kind of squared away for that person that comes to me. I think my two goals, and then of course, taking care of the family, mm-hmm. don't be too busy, spend all your time, taking care of the, like the mechanic. Most time the mechanic of the neighborhood, he has a worst running car.
Yes.
Because he's spending too much time on everybody else's car.
Yes. So
I don't want to sit there and be the one that say, oh shoot, I spend all the time taking care of, I need to take care of my family. So that's what I look at. As Veterans Council of Veterans, I believe it probably I'm going to help it become a national asset. And I think, and I want to take care of my family. Those two things, I think, that's going to move them forward as I get older, mm-hmm. and a succession for VCV.
What have you noticed being in that role with mental health? What have you noticed is like a big issue when it comes to this veteran suicide? Is it just because they don't feel like they belong anywhere, or is it a transition from military to civilian life, or because I know we've lost some friends and family as well that. They just got out and they felt like nobody could understand, and they just kind of, burrowed away somewhere, and they just lived their life out their own way. So it seems to be there's a lot of different variations of what you get, but have you noticed any specifics?
Well, and I think that's the biggest challenge with us when it comes to when it comes to suicide, because we always try to nationalize, monopolize, or franchise an ailment, and I think suicide is so personal that it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. There are many reasons why somebody died by suicide, like a whack-a-mole, mm-hmm. and you just keep missing. Mm-hmm. And so here in Florida has very high suicide rate, but the people dying by suicide are 65 and older, mm-hmm. and so there's a whole different reasons why, from the isolation piece. As you get older and older, my dad's 87. Almost everybody you know is dead, mm-hmm. including my mom. Yeah. And if you look at most stuff are not for him or her, 87, right? It's still for young people. Right. So I think so for the older people, it's about being, this the isolationism, the not belonging, being a burden, and then and then the health. So every day, you're sitting there saying, what if you get a pain. You're gonna have that pain for the rest of your life. You just gotta learn how to do it. So now you got the health problems. Now you walk slower, and you're weaker, and you become more vulnerable, and then you got all these health issues start coming up, and you start saying, what the point am I hanging on for, right? Why am I hanging on? Yeah. So you get that kind of mentality of, why am I hanging on? Mm-hmm. And then so everybody has a choice in families. When it comes to families. And we don't do a good job of that. It's the reason people die by suicide is such a spontaneous when it comes to family. We see it all the time. We see the homicide suicides, mm-hmm. that are going all over. Yeah, true. So the family has if your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and then you're going to lose that. For your mind, that's the most important thing. What's the point of living? We don't address the family. If I got high blood pressure, the VA does is they take me, put me in an inpatient, and all of a sudden my blood pressure's gone down. I lost some weight, but guess what? Go right back to that house and they're still eating the dang, whatever it is, banil, arroz con banil or whatever, or pork chop, ribs, whatever, and your blood pressure go right up again. So until we start making it holistic, to me the VA has to. There's two different thoughts for when we talk about the veteran. For the VA, it's the veteran first, family second. For me, it's the family first, the veteran second. You take care of the family, they'll take care of the veteran. Awesome. So if you get the blood pressure and the stressors and stuff, and people understand that, then that'll put less stress off of that veteran. But if that family's saying, you ain't got a job, you ain't no good, blah, 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 just constantly ramming you, and then they think that PTSD is a crutch, oh yeah, they just ramming you, and the kids are acting all up. Then it's like, wow. So you not only trying to handle your own ruck, right? You got to handle somebody else's ruck, and they're saying your ruck is messed up. So we got to find a way to include the family in a lot of our solutions,
Yes.
instead of just solely looking at the veteran and somehow, some way, the other stuff doesn't matter.
Changing the environment.
You got to change the support system. It's harder now, as you know, because of social media. And when people during the Vietnam time, they wouldn't even know what was going on because most times dad and mom didn't say crap, right? But now, I know exactly what happened in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You ain't got to tell me anything because I'm looking at it right on CNN.
Right.
So with our social media, it's just unfiltered. And then if somebody in your family is suffering from PTSD or depression and stuff, and you see that, now you start getting triggered because now you're starting, you're getting triggered from that. And now the whole family's triggered because they just saw that withdrawal,
Yes.
that effed up withdrawal from Afghanistan. They see it and they start. And then we don't treat them, and it becomes what we call generational. And no one knows it, so no one treats the kid. No one look. They just say, "Oh, what's wrong with you? You're all messed up." Not saying, "Wait a minute, maybe because his dad and mom came with PTSD or depression, whatever, and now he or she got to learn how to deal with it." And then they haven't. There's no counseling, and now they're seeing the crap on TV, and so now they get re-triggered themselves. So we got to look at more about bringing a family. Just like as you know, in active duty, they know everything, including your dog or parrot.
Truth.
They know it.
Yeah.
But then when we leave the military, the only person they care about is that veteran. They don't care what that person came by. So we need to start changing that a little bit more, saying if we have the same kind of focus on active duty, then we should keep that same focus. And I tell you what, I'd rather spend more money on that than the other place our money going to. I'd rather spend more money. You will get more bang for your buck. You probably get better recruitment if you start seeing you're taking care of families as well than what we're going right now.
Truth. Tony, it's all great stuff, man. All great stuff. I hope when people hear this and they understand what you're about and what they understand what the Veterans Council of Veterans is about, that it proceeds follow throughout the years that you want it to go through, because it's definitely something that's needed around.
Yes, sir.
No doubt. Well, Tony, that's it. I mean, we're good here. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for your time, your service, your bravery. We appreciate everything you've done for us and what you're doing for the community.
I want to add one thing.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm having a conference coming up.
Yes.
It's called Serving Our Elderly Veteran. And why is this important? Because we're all getting older.
Yes.
And Florida has over 770,000 elderly veterans, 65 and older. So we're not even counting 60. 770,000 elderly veterans. And their problems are different. So, you're not going to, if you're going to market, you're not going to use TikTok to talk to those 65 years old.
Right.
Mental health is different. So we're all learning about the young people that post-9/11 PTSD, but what about the Alzheimer, the dementia, the Parkinson's, all that. So this conference is something that I don't understand. It's like it was in plain sight. This conference to bring those resources together so we can find out how they provide services for that elderly veteran.
Right.
And that's one I definitely want to make sure that we got to understand, not just say with the family, we got that, but don't forget about our elderlies. They're being shut out. If you look at all the grants and all the stuff we're looking at on TV, it's all for post 9/11.
Yeah.
If you're from the Vietnam, Gulf War, Cold War, ain't nothing for you. So we got to change that. I just want to make sure that's important that you'll see me tackling that in next couple months. That's all I have, sir.
Oh, you ever need any assistance, you know where to reach out to.
Appreciate it, sir.
All right, thanks for your time again.
Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Cool.